Sunbreak, the upcoming Rise expansion that has been announced already thanks to the recent Nintendo Direct. That was fast. Coming summer 2022, we have less than a year's wait to play the whole new pile of Rise content coming. As I'm sure you've seen both Cotton and Rage talk about various aspects of what we did see in that reveal, I'm here to talk about what I want to see. Rise was an awesome game, but somewhat controversial with certain aspects of the community. People who thought it was rushed or even unfinished. People who had complaints here or there about endgame and difficulty. What I want to make clear at the start of this video though is this. I loved Rise. I think it was one of the best games I've ever played, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think it was one of the best we've seen in the series. While, yes, there are things I could poke at here or there, I could say that about any of the games in the whole series, and I look at Rise with fondness. It was great. The main thing I want from Rise, though, is more. More content. More Rise. With Sunbreak, we're getting that, but I've been thinking, what would I like to see in Sunbreak the most? And, you know, what would you guys? Let's talk about it. Let's tackle my personal biggest complaint with Rise then, a video topic that I covered in a few ways through the various updates. Difficulty and the lack of it in Rise. While there were absolutely challenges here or there in the game, especially my first experiences, it was far and few between when I look back at my time with GU on many parts of World. Rise gave us a totally new movement ability, and with that, many ways to avoid damage. Just the Wirefall ability would let you recover from a knockdown faster than we've ever been able to do before. And the healing, wow. What an insane thing that was. You'd get a huge heal instantly, which is nuts for a basic health potion, and then another chunk that would heal over time as well. Just those two details made Rise one of the most forgiving Monster Hunter games after you've taken damage. Interestingly, the monsters themselves were far from lacking in mechanics, in their mechanical challenges. It's just that we've never had an easier time recovering from what they can do. So while our experiences may have varied, I hope you understand at least why I felt the difficulty wasn't as intense in Rise. And personally, I love the challenge in these games, and that's what I'm looking for. Fatalis and Elatrion were incredible examples of that for me, and I want more of it in my games. It only makes sense that we went from G rank, aka Master Rank, back to a high rank game in Rise, and that felt much easier by comparison. But now in Sunbreak, we're returning to the big leagues, and I hope the devs can deliver on what I'm looking for. Let's move away from that serious topic to some more simple ones then, but still important. What else do I want to see in Rise? Monsters. I know, right? Big surprise. New monsters that I've never seen before, that is. The new monsters of Rise were so cool. Their designs often very lovable, like the Bishaten, which was also very clever in its mechanics and concept. The fact that it came from Japanese myths. The Bishaten was based on the Tengu, or the Somnacan, based on the old Japanese mermaid myths. That made for such interesting and good concept design for these monsters, and it was very well executed. They injected new life into the series, and I think they were always very fun, and overall the new monsters were very popular. So of course I've got faith that we'll be seeing awesome new monsters in Sunbreak, and hopefully just as many as we saw in Rise originally. But what will they be based on, do you think? Will it be more Japanese myth? Or as Josh and Cotton have been suggesting, maybe they're going to be going more Western and we'll see other mythologies for the new monster concepts. But moving on, what about returning monsters that are currently missing from Rise? Of course there are many world monsters you could suggest, but what I want more than that are monsters that we've missed out on. Zamturos is a good example, the big blow-up shark. He was hinted at being in Rise because we saw the little small Zamites. But there's just so many monsters from the series that we didn't even see in World that I would love to see in Sunbreak. I want to see the other Fated Four like Astalos and Gamoth. I want to see the Golden Pinecone Seragios. We did get a new spider in Rise, but what about Nerzilla? Where's Nerzilla? So that's what I want most. Returning monsters, but ones that weren't seen in World, to bring them up to date and give them new mechanics like we even saw with Crimson Glow Valstrax. Another thing I'd love to see is crazy weapon and armor designs. World had toned down the visual style of these. They were more realistic and often less silly, which to be fair, did look really cool at many times. The visuals of that game were incredible, but I do think it's fair to say that it had people missing the more fun and silly designs of the older games. By far though, the most offensive was the World equipment that was embarrassing with its design. The ones that were basically just default all weapons, and then you had a bit of monster just slapped on it. God, the Xeno'jiiva ones could have been incredible, and they were so disappointing. With Rise, we return to much more fun and interesting styles for your designs, much more vibrant and out there, and that's what I want. Sure, give me silly and ridiculous, but also give me awesome and intense ones. I want them to go nuts. Okay, back to a more serious topic then. Let's go for Endgame. It is a tough topic, and there's a lot of people on both sides of the fence. For me, I had a lot of fun with Rise and just left it at that. It did feel a bit short, but I enjoyed it. The main thing I want is more, you know, longer forms of Endgame. It's a tricky thing to achieve, I admit, but Rise's version did feel short. Look back at 1.0, what were we doing? We were farming for the talismans, and that was basically it. How were you doing that? Well, you'd farm Nawa, and that would be it. It was by far the best way to do it. Sure, you could go fight other monsters and use their parts of the talisman grind, but it was nowhere near as effective, pigeonholing us into doing just one monster to farm the one endgame system, really. It would have been much better if we had many monsters that were a bit closer in value for your time for the output for the talisman farm. It's funny though, having only that one major RNG system was a great thing, I thought. You could argue that it was the best and fairest grind system they've done so far, even though, yeah, it had its faults. But when you're gonna have only one grind long term, you better make sure that one grind is good, it's engaging, and it lasts. So I'd love an endgame that lasts longer, that has more variety to it, that encourages us to engage with the many awesome aspects of Rise instead of just go farm that one monster. Speaking of aspects of Rise that were undervalued though, and underused, it's Apex Monsters time. I think Apex Monsters were really cool. It was a fun way to integrate the deviant style of monster in the current story, rewarding us with those Lazarite jewels for our builds, and providing us with at least some challenge since they do hit pretty hard and had some different mechanics. The problem long term was, why do them? Why fight them? Well, sure, just for fun, and I did do that, but I would like there to be a reason beyond that. What a waste it was to not have these guys offer us Apex equipment with new skills. You could design such awesome new equipment visually with the whole Apex look, and mechanically we could have new skills that have never been seen before in the series. What could the Apex skill be? I don't know, something tied to the Rampage, make us go nuts. Maybe we've got more damage but we take more, maybe just some crazy new effects, I don't know. But there's potential there to try something crazy with that concept, and it just feels wasted. So make Apex monsters relevant to the endgame maybe, give us a reason to fight them, give us equipment for them, new skills, all that I'd love. Alright, time to relax a little bit again and talk about story. Because of course there's going to be a new story and I'm actually really looking forward to that. I found World Story interesting, right? But the telling of it was very hit or miss. Rise seemed to pull things in a lot and get to the point. The pace was better. I actually enjoyed all of the characters, which was not the case in World. And there was way less pat on the back scenes. Those scenes where you have a long discussion about how great you are and how good of a job you're doing and how good of a job you just did and how good of a job you're gonna do. Like, yeah, sure, give me a thumbs up or whatever, but they go too far in World. So yeah, Rise seemed to have the right pace and style for me, so I'm looking forward to more of that. But the big thing was the setting and mystery. How they're going to reveal it, how they're going to tell that story, how in fact are they going to introduce the new monsters. In Rise we had that great haiku style for each monster's cinematic. I'm wondering if they're going to continue that, or will it be a totally new style? But what of the buddies? You know, the Palamute edition was incredible, right? But before long, in Endgame, I found myself basically always running 2 Palicos. That was because of the Pilfer skill. Running 2 Palicos with a Pilfer skill, well, you get extra materials every hunt. That's a big deal. Are you farming for talisman points at endgame? Well, run 2 Palico. Are you farming a new equipment set? Or making a new weapon? Or upgrading basically anything ever? Run 2 Palicos. You'll get the most materials. Once again, you don't have to do things the best way, the most optimal way, but that's not a valid excuse here to me. It's been proven time and time again. Players en masse will pick what is known to be the strongest and fastest over what they prefer in many games. So Palamutes, I barely got to experience them at a certain point. What I'd like to see is Palamutes have an equal skill for farming, or maybe just give us a bunch of new skills for both Palamutes and Palicos. Just make the value of these skills a bit more balanced and I'll be very happy. Moving on, here's an obvious one. new switch skills. We've had such a good time with switch skills in Rise. It was a very clever way to bring back the Hunter arts and include them in totally new ways. Meta-defining, gameplay changing, it's been a great thing for the series, and I hope we see more of that in the future of the series. Switch skills have been great, right? It doesn't necessarily need improving, it just needs adding to. Give us more options, you know, more builds, more ways to play the weapon. It's been really cool the way that it completely changes the way you approach a fight based on what switch skills you've got actually equipped. Switch skills pushed me to try every weapon again, just to see how it changed the playstyle and if I would fall in love with that weapon that maybe I previously hadn't. So I'm absolutely looking forward to doing that all over again in Sunbreak. Finally, an important thing to do in Sunbreak that the devs really probably know, right? 100% of the player base will agree on this. The longsword absolutely needs a buff. It needs to be stronger. I'm kidding, maybe, but seriously, there are actually hitbox issues with Rise. Naturally, as a longsword player, I experience it from the longsword perspective. Helmbreaker will occasionally just miss some of the ticks of damage, even though it's been aimed correctly. Or the I/counter will trigger but not level you up. Or, just like Helmsplitter, not do the full damage despite successfully doing it at the correct range. Longsword is not the only weapon seeing hitbox problems in Rise. It's just a general quality of life or functional improvement for the game that would be great. It's been a topic and complaint for Rise through the speedrun community that I follow. Peppo from TDS has shown so many examples of these issues and how it's been a huge problem for him in Rise. So I'm not sure how they would fix that. I don't know if it's something wrong with the code or how things are working, but it would be great if that could be addressed. But that's it for now. 10 things that I'm both hoping for and looking forward to in Sunbreak. And ultimately, right, I just want more. I'm happy to know that it's coming, and I'm so happy that it's so soon. But now it's your turn. What are you most excited for? What are you looking forward to in Sunbreak the most? What is it you'd like to see the most? But until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.